Want to create something like this using two simple tools? Well, stick around. I'll show you how it's done. All right, so first of all, let's talk about what we're going to need to carve this little guy. Well, like I said, we're going to use two tools for this project. A knife, and I like a little bit longer knife. Of course, if you've watched my channel any length of time, you know I'm going to reach for this Badger State Blades Cutty Sark. It's my go-to. And we're going to need a V-tool. The size and the degree of the V really make no difference whatsoever. I find a pencil is handy. Of course, we're going to need our PPE, in this case, a carving glove. And we're going to need ourselves a cutout. Now, I'm going to include the pattern for this particular cutout. If you look in the description of this video down below, there will be a link to my Patreon account that'll have that pattern available. This one, you do not have to be a paying member to get this pattern. It's available to anyone. If you want to leave me a buck or two, that's always greatly appreciated, but it's not expected. And I've got a tape measure here today because I'm going to try to do better about giving you guys some measurements on what I'm doing. The first thing we're going to do, and obviously this is not a life-size blue jay. Blue jays are fairly large birds. This is just a little pattern I sketched up based off of actually a realistic bird that I did a while back. Go back to what I was saying earlier. First thing we're going to do is we're going to give ourselves a center line all the way around this thing. Now to regain my train of thought, I actually started off my carving journey as a bird carver. I greatly enjoy, or I find I have a ton of respect for bird carvers. I found that it didn't quite scratch the itch that caricature carving does for me, but I still enjoy dabbling in it from time to time. So that's kind of the genesis of this particular video, this particular project. I just wanted to try my hand at carving a bird again, and thought a blue jay would be a good good subject matter. Now we're going to give ourselves a rough outline of the head. And I'm going to go about a 1/2 inch off the center line on either side. And just give myself a reference mark there. I'm using my finger kind of as a gauge here. Pure symmetry doesn't really matter. I've found that if I can get in the ballpark, my eyes can kind of see what's symmetrical and what's not. And we're going to go right off of that point. We're going to give ourselves a rough outline of a beak here, going back to the outside of that head. And then back here on the back of the crest, we're going to do a corresponding. So we just make like a little diamond shape here. Of course, straight lines don't occur in nature. That's just a guide for now, just a reference. The first thing we're going to do is just really start hogging away wood here. We want to get that head slimmed down. And this one might be a bit of a bugger to keep in the frame. I would do my level best. But if I start to wonder, hopefully you won't miss anything important. I'm just aiming for that outline that we just drew. And I'm hogging away wood here. There's not a lot to talk through, so I'm just going to shut my yap and We'll fast forward to this so we can make this video a manageable length. But right now, I'm just looking to angle this up from the shoulder wing area here up to the top of that head. All right, so that's a start. As you can see, and I don't think I referenced this at the beginning, this pattern was drawn so that it would fit on a 2-inch thick block of wood. So if you want to go larger, you might want to scale it up a bit. If you wanted to shrink this down, you could shrink that pattern down and use like 1.5 inch thick block of wood. It'd be a little bit more manageable. This one, for hand carving like this with just 2 tools, it's close to a handful for me. It's doable, but it takes a little bit of effort. I'm gonna continue slimming that head down just a bit there. All right, so we've got our center line here, and now we can start, about right here, and we're just gonna make ourselves a soft curve like that. That's gonna roughly be the center of the body on the sides. And what we want to start to do is, in the bird carving world, they refer to this as carving to the round. We don't want any flat spots left. Now, of course, you can see I left some heavy facets here, some heavy cuts. I was aiming for that. That's the look I wanted, but I made sure to remove the flat spots off this, this plain chunk of wood here. And I don't know how well it shows, but you got to remove a fair bit of wood to get to that point. So the key to this is not try to take that all off at once. We want to start with bite-sized chunks and start whittling our way down. So take that corner off here. This side, try to make a corresponding cut. It's gonna be tough to do this and keep it in frame. And I guess I also should note, when you lay this pattern out, make sure your grain is running this way. I would think that would be fairly intuitive, but it is important because we want this tail to be structurally sound. We want that grain running this direction, and it carves much easier. You know, if I had the grain running vertically, all of this would be in grain cut, and I would already be cussing by this point. We don't want that. So the grain's running along the body here. And once you start to get in there, you can actually really hog off some fairly heavy chunks of wood. If you notice, I'm not going to that tail yet. Not heavily. We're going to circle back to that area here shortly. I'm just starting to round over the scapular area and the wings. We can go back and try to match that on this side. If you stop every once in a while and just kind of look down the piece, you can see where you don't have symmetry. Your eyes, you know, pick up on symmetry very well. I mean, that's the reason we often see patterns where they're not truly there. There's that. Now I'm gonna come over to the belly and do the same thing. I'm gonna carve to the round, looking to go from this line. We're not gonna make it all the way to that line yet. We're just doing some mass removal here, and this cut's a lot easier. You can really just hog that wood off of there. We'll come over to this side and do the same thing. Once again, just circling back occasionally to look for symmetry. This is, it's not a perfect comparison, but this is similar to blocking in a caricature. You know, if you have watched any videos from Dave Stetson or taken any classes from him, you will you'll know that he always likes to say form first. And we're doing the same thing here. We're building that form. We're a long ways from getting into the weeds on any details. We just want to get that general shape down first. And once we get to there, it's pretty smooth sailing, just like with a caricature. And once you get those arms and legs blocked in and know that they're in the right location, it gets to be pretty easy from that point to see with your mind's eye of what the finished piece is going to look like. All right, we're getting close to the point that I want to start thinking about this overall body shape now. We still got a lot of flat spots we got to get rid of. That's fine. Get that evened up. We're going to get there, but we've, got a quasi-bird looking thing here. I'm going to go, probably about the same as the outside of that head, about a 1/2 inch there on either side of that center line. I'm just going to make myself a mark. Let's see how close I was to my guesstimation there. 1/2 inch, pretty close to. And then we won't worry too much about that yet. We can show the general shape of the tail. So what I'm going to look to do is to taper this body down to where it meets that tail. And that's just going to be a stop cut and a relief cut. And we're going to repeat that process a couple of times. This relief cut, we're tapering. And we're going to reach, way back, way up the sides here. And just taper that body back to where this tail meets up with it. We don't have to worry about smoothing these cuts out just yet. You can leave a pretty sharp corner right there for the time being. We'll clean that up later. If you'd like, you can go ahead and pop most of that tail off at this point. Thin it down to the outside edge of that line. Still got some tapering needs to be done here. And I'm thinking the whole time that I'm doing this tapering, I'm keeping that roundness in mind. Good with the stop cut right there. Just so we can get that wood cleaned out. Like so. Still a little raggedy right there. That'll be fine. Continue rounding over those wings and the scapular area. And we can come over here onto the belly side and get some more of that gone as well. If you have a subscription or you read Wood Carving Illustrated, you might remember James Miller had an article on doing a flat plane cardinal. Oh, it's been about a year ago. That article definitely inspired this piece. Big fan of James's work. I think he's a great carver. And his animals, that whole series that he did, the book that he did on animals, and the bird article proves that, Yes, he may primarily be a caricature carver like I am, but it doesn't hurt to venture outside of your comfort zone every once in a while. I will say that I know there's really not, but there's this like implied beef between bird carvers and caricature carvers. And you know, a lot of that's all just in good fun. But I actually have learned a lot from the bird carving community that I can apply to caricature carving, especially in the realm of painting. Bird carvers have an understanding of color theory and have an understanding on how to get soft tones with their paint and have a good dead flat look, because birds really aren't shiny, so they take a lot of painstaking efforts to avoid shininess when they paint. And if you read into their painting techniques at all, there's a lot to be learned there that would benefit caricature carving as well, especially the finishing process. One thing to me that is a major turn off might not be the right word, but it's the one I'm going to use. When I see a caricature carving and the clothes, because somebody used way too heavy a paint, the clothes are really shiny. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't wear a lot of shiny clothes. They should be pretty flat, pretty dull. And that really just comes down to technique and the mediums that you use. We'll do the same thing on this side. Just go to that outside line there that we drew for the tail, and I'm going to taper the body into that. This is an awkward angle to carve this at. Trying to stay on the table. Keep this extended out from me so it stays in the frame. Hopefully you don't have the same struggles, because you can get a more comfortable position. Just sighting down the body, checking for symmetry. I can see that I need to remove a little bit more on this side to match. We'll just do that. Need to back up just a little bit right here. And again, we want to round those wings over. Pop that tail off. Square that cut up a little bit. We can match that cut up like so. Something like that. So let's check. Symmetry's not bad, pretty close. All right. So we need to do something similar to the front of this thing. We've got the outline of the head here, but as you can see, that head's got to slim down quite a bit yet. I'll make a reference mark here for you. I want to go right, so those wings on a bird are going to be about right here. That neck area going to be somewhere right about there. I'm just going to try to match that on the other side. Not quite in the ballpark, but we're close enough. We can. Now, this is one area, if you have a wide number 9 sweep gouge that you wanted to use, this is one area where it'd be handy. You could scoop that out. But since I said we were doing this project with 2 tools, I'm going to stick with my 2 tools. And I'm going to keep the knife in my hand. I'm going to go right above that area. I'm just going to start doing some roll cuts. Careful not to let that knife go into my finger there. And all I'm looking to do is I want to slim this area up from here up to basically where this side is completely flat with what I've already got in place. And it might take a couple of times to get down to the depth that you need. That's going to pop out. So let's just wheel. There we go. That's why I was talking about doing that with a gouge. It's just a funky spot to get into with a knife in some ways. So you got to get creative on how you reach those areas. We're not there yet by any means, but that does kind of outline the head. You can see the shoulders are standing out a little bit proud now. Now I need to do the same thing on the other side. This one's going to be a little more difficult for me to get to. I'm just going to start by taking small bites right here. I'm just doing that roll cut, just rolling that knife through. That's one of the reasons I'm using this particular knife, since it doesn't have that wide spine, except on, out toward the tip. I can roll that knife around pretty easily. I would not recommend tackling this project with a small, thin detail knife. Just some pretty heavy cuts. If you don't have one of these Cutty Sarks, well, I recommend you buying yourself one. You won't be disappointed. But if you don't have one, that doesn't mean you can't do this project. I just find this particular knife profile perfect for getting into these spots. And again, we are just building the form here. We haven't begun to worry about details. We just want to get things kind of placed in the right area. Kind of, sort of. So we're just gonna, right here's another one of those spots that's kind of tough to get to. I'm gonna try to back my way down to that cut. I got a lot of wood to remove back here, so it's not a big deal if I get a bit of a hinge point in there, or if my cuts look a little rough. That's all gonna get cleaned up. Okay, let's do a symmetry check. I need to remove some more from this side. A little bit more right in here. That's not bad. We can work with that. We'll soften up that area just a little bit. Okay. I said we were going to use 2 tools, and so far we've only used 1, right? Here's going to be one of those spots where that V tool is handy. Right here at the back of the neck, coming down to the scapular area. Let's lay that in. And that's going to be right there. If you look at the at the profile here, you can see where the base of the neck is. We're going to go right off of that and just make a V. We can grab that V tool, and what I'm going to do is I want to keep that thing turned to where I'm cutting more from the neck side. You could do this with the knife if you wanted to, just stop cut and relief cut. Doesn't really matter. I just find it a little bit easier to do with V tool. We'll clean that area out right there. All right. So the crest of this head, or the crest on the back of this head, we need to get that a little bit of a taper in there. And I'm going to pull some of that wood from the neck as well when I'm doing that, just to thin that area down too. Try to do this side, keep it in the frame. Something like that. Once again, we're not going for perfect yet. We're just getting in the ballpark. Good enough. The beak's still got a lot of meat on it. That's got to thin down considerably. I mean, the whole head's going to come down some more, as you can tell. But I wanted to leave a little bit of wood on there because I'm going to build some eye channels in. And of course, put some detail in for that crest. All right. So now we need to just finish getting our rounding done. Clean that out. Like so. And of course, the back of this neck needs to be rounded as well. I don't know how well it shows, but I got a flat spot right there. I've got a flat spot on either side, and I still got a flat spot here. And those all need to go away. And these shoulders are a little bit high yet. I can drop those down. Kind of running up against the grain right there. I'm gonna switch my tactic, come at it from the opposite direction so it don't split out on me. Clean that area up. All right. Let's get rid of these flat spots here. We'll drop those shoulders down just a bit as we come. And don't worry about, if you got, don't try to make this thing smooth. I mean, I suppose if you wanted to go back and sand it or you get it perfectly smooth, you could. But I don't think it's necessary. One of the things I like about doing birds like this is those facets almost give the impression of feathers, especially, when you paint it and then you can kind of buff off the paint off the high spots there and make the wood shine through a little bit. Kind of gives, like I said, the impression of feathers on it. I think it just makes for a neat look on a bird like this. And if you wanted to take this idea and make, a little bit smaller bird, like a finch or a chickadee or something like that, there are tons of images online. Just find you one, get you a good reference photo, and you can either print it off and scale it to whatever size is appropriate, or use that to, flex those creative muscles a little bit and try to draw a pattern for yourself. By and large, the carving portion is going to be the same, no matter what type of bird. I was actually honestly asked to carve a blue jay for someone. So I did this one, and thought it might make for an interesting video, so I'm gonna carve another one here. But if you want to do a different type of bird, really and truly, you would approach it exactly the same. I'm trying to get a little bit of a roundness in there as well. Get a little bit more taper in toward the back here. Sitting here listening to the birds chirping outside, and it just occurred to me, I think I have reached my peak Gen X middle-agedom. Grew up listening to gangster rap, and now I'm wondering if my bird feeder's full. Life comes at you fast. If you like this video and you're interested in maybe some other bird designs, I actually think I'm gonna be carving a woodpecker here soon as well for someone. If you'd like to see that, let me know. If this isn't what you guys want, I won't bother taking the time to video it. But if you do, let me know. Shout out in the comments down there and let me know what you think. It's different, and I promise you we'll get back to doing caricatures very, very soon. And I've got the Charlotte Showcase Wood Carvings show coming up in April. I've got to start preparing for. I've got some projects in mind for that. I'd like to go through like we did with the Walking Santa piece we did at the end of last year. Just do a series on one project and go through from beginning to end. But I got a little bit of time before I have to start working on that. So if you want to see something else along these lines, let me know. And if you don't, let me know that as well. If this doesn't scratch that itch for you, that's fine. But let me know what you want. All right, well, I see a big flat spot right there we gotta get rid of. I'll miss that one. mentioned listening to gangster rap growing up. Now I've got NWA's Boys in the Hood stuck in my head. Shout out if you know what I'm talking about. All right. We got our form pretty well down. We shape his tail up just a little bit more. There we go. All right. Form's pretty well set. Fairly happy with where that's at. So now let's start in on the details for this guy. First thing I'm going to do is I want to outline the scapular area here. Let's give ourselves a little bit of a center line once again. And we're going to come down about a 1/2 inch. Yeah, about a half, maybe not quite a 1/2 inch, but right in there. This is going to be our starting point. And we're going to roll those around to about right there. And we're going to do our level best to match that on the other side. You know, sight down and look for symmetry. Now, I'm not putting these things on the table to be judged by a world-class carver or anything. So if they're not exactly even, I don't think anybody's going to care. We're going to reach back for that V tool, and we're going to undercut those scapulas just a bit. Whew. Sorry, y'all. My dog's laying underneath my table here. I think she just farted. It's rough. May have to stop what I'm doing to open up the windows to air this house out a little bit. All right, so now I'm going to undercut that just a bit. Just smooth that cut off. We can take our V-tool and just lightly clean that area out. Let's do the same thing on this side. I don't know how well it shows up. You see that heavy shadow right there? I'm just looking to smooth that off just a bit. And we can come right there with the tip of our knife and that little, it's almost like when you split a mustache right at the bottom of the snot trough. Same basic cut. I'm just going to take that knife tip. And we can throw a little bit of a shadow in there. Just makes that area pop out just a little bit more. A little bit of clean out. Clean this area up here while I got it in my hand just a little bit. All right. So now we need to do our primary feathers. We're going to go right there at that connection. We just want to draw a very soft arc back to that center line. We'll do the same thing on the other side again. We're just looking to get in the ballpark of being even. And once again with the V-tool, I'm going to undercut that so those wings kind of stand up proud of the surrounding area. There we go. Run it, bumping it to the grain there. Let's come back from the other direction. Notice I got that V tool rolled so that it's cutting from the body, not the wing. Do the same thing on this side. Cut from the body, not the wing here. Like so. And just like we did up there in that scapular area, we want to undercut that just a bit. Smooth that off. Do the same thing on this side. It's just a light cut. I'm not really hogging anything away here. And I can bring that tail right to the bottom side of those primaries right there, and just do a little stop cut right there to cut that loose. There we go. We'll clean that up. Easily do it with the V tool here as well. Just swipe through there so I don't accidentally dig in there super deep. Do the same thing on this side. I get somewhere to hold too. There we go. Let those primary feathers down just a little bit more. Like so. And we can smooth off his tail. Get rid of some of those areas there. And one thing I'm going to do, this is, I guess if I want to equate this to carving a caricature, it'd be like doing a hat brim, cowboy hat. I want to taper this tail to the edges here to give the illusion of thinness. If we look at this guy here, that tail still got enough thickness to be structurally sound. But if you look at the edges, there's chamfered just a bit, and it just kind of gives the illusion of being thin. So we'll do that on either side. And we can come up from Well, don't want to do it that direction. Run into the grain. Do the same thing on the bottom here. It's not the way I really want to carve that, but I was trying to make it easy for you guys to see. There we go. Get rid of my saw marks. That's always important. All right. We are getting close to the end here. So now let's go back to this head. Even that up just a little bit more. We got our general outline. The head's shaped fairly well. Now I'm just going to knock these corners off and round that head over as well. That beak still needs to come down considerably. All right, this area underneath here on the bottom side of the neck, we're going to do just like we did up on the shoulders and just do those roll cuts. We're just rounding that area off, get rid of those flat spots. But be careful right here. I don't want to take too much away from that beak just yet. You can take that corner off, that's not a big deal, but round this area just a bit more. Just so it matches up. Let's do the same thing on this side. Just gonna do the roll cuts right here. Again, checking our symmetry. You can see I got some meat back here it needs to be taken care of. We are close. Once again, thinking round. Get rid of flat spots. All right. As you can see, my head's a little rough right here, but we're going to get ready to take care of that. So that crest is going to be about like so. All I'm going to do is take my knife and do a stop cut and a relief cut on either side of that neck and just thin that area down just a bit. And we can clean up the neck a little bit more as we're doing that, aiming towards that center line. There we go. Give myself a little bit of a trough right here to work into. That's better. We'll just clean that up. There we go. Now we can round that area over just a little bit more. Do the same thing on the other side here. Down. Try to take too big of a bite right there. That's better to hold it from. There we go. I'm running into the grain trying to cut that direction, which is why I went back and dug that trough out just a little bit more to give myself some room to work towards. And I'm just going to take a nice little skinning cut all the way around just to clean that up. And then once again, we can round that area over. Just a touch more. And then for the crest itself, we'll just take that V tool. Give ourselves a few lines on either side. Could even do it right here. I don't know why I was talking about Gen X earlier. I have looked at my analytics. Not a lot of y'all are Gen Xers. Precious few. All right. So for the beak, got our center line back in right here. We're going to come up about yay far, and we're just going to do a little bit of a soft arch like that. You can get in there with the V tool if you'd like. I think it's easier just to use the knife. But be aware that you're cutting into end grain here. It's going to be not tricky. It's going to be a pain. You got to be careful with it. Pop that out. And then these sides are still way too wide. So let's bring those down A little bit more. That's better. You know, blue jay's kind of got a long, tapered beak. That's the thing when you're doing these folksy style birds like this, or bird carving in general. You know, if you hit on those markers, you know, things that represents a particular bird, like with the blue jay, of course, we want to have that crest. We want to have the beak shaped right. You can get away with a lot of other areas not being perfect. We're going to do our little 3-point cut right here. You can get away with other areas not being perfect representative of that particular species, but it'll still, at least to a common person, you know, somebody that's not a master bird carver or a judge or anything like that, they'll be able to look at it and instantly say, oh yeah, that's a blue jay. And, you know, paint matters there as well. I didn't, when I painted this guy, as you can tell, like I didn't put a whole lot of detail into that. Just a warm white, a light blue, and some black to give the markings. But it makes it instantly recognizable as a blue jay. I'm gonna outline this bottom side here with the V tool, just because that's end grain. That's a spot that I can run into problems with if I just use a knife. And we'll taper all of this up to a fine point. Now, here on the top side, you know, that's still square. We want to get rid of that. Just be careful not to take too much off the end, because that'll change that beak shape. And I want to go back and kind of soften these transition areas right here. So I'm just going to cut up to here. Back here the same way. Now I got saw marks here on the underside of his beak. I gotta carefully get out of there. Just be mindful of the way that grain's running. See, I popped off a little bit. Almost shorten that thing down too much, but we can, I think we got plenty of meat here. We can make that work. Let's do the same on this side. We'll taper that head, or is it a face? What would you call that area on a bird? Anyways, we want to taper that down to the beak here. And we want to carefully shape that beak up as we go. There we go. Beak's probably a little thick. I'm actually going to remove just a touch more from underneath here. There. Now that I got that shaping done, we can get rid of these flat spots here. All right, so that eye channel is going to go, let me get rid of that heavy cut right there. And right there, taper that up just a little bit more. Let's check our symmetry. All right, so let's give ourselves an eye channel here. Basically something like this. We'll come on this other side. Do our level best to match that up. That's at least in the ballpark. And we're just going to do that roll cut. Once again, if you want to do this with a gouge, like maybe a 7 or an 8, you could probably even get away with doing it with a 9 if you wanted to. Feel free to. I've got my self-imposed limitations here, but there's no limits on what you do with it. Want to soften that up. We'll come on this side, do the same thing. Just roll cut right there. Check our symmetry here. Not super critical, but I think it does make a little bit of a difference. Our eyes are going to go back from that beak. Hey, let's say 1/2 inch once again. I'm just going to draw a plus sign right about there. We'll come on the other side. We'll match that up. Draw ourselves a plus sign. Again, check a couple different ways. Make sure they're pretty even. And we're going to, ADHD kicked in. Saw a squirrel. There we go. We're going to do a diamond shape right here. So we're going to stick that knife tip in right there. We're going to stick that knife tip in right there. Basically, all 4 of those points, we're going to do a little 3-cut chip cut all the way around here. So you have 4 of them on each eye. This is a technique I picked up from watching James Miller's videos and reading his articles and stuff. It's a very, very simple way to do an eye on a flat plane animal like this, where you don't have like that cheek mound to work up against. I'm gonna take all 4 of those corners out. And then you can kind of stick a knife tip in there and round that eye over just a bit if you'd like. If you leave where those two lines intersect for last, that'll be the high point, and that'll build that the eye roundness in for you. Like so. We'll see it again on the other side. One. And you can do these individually, or you can go all the way around like I am, do all four at once. Your choice. I find it easier on carvings like this to just go ahead and put all four of those stop cuts in at one time. And then I can work the eye round as I go. So we'll pop each corner out. If you want to get more depth there, go for it. Make that eye, those shadows a little more prominent, whatever you want to do. Take the knife tip and just kind of round things over. We're on the home stretch. I'll finish rounding this head over, get rid of my flat spots there, my saw marks. And the last thing we need to do is give this guy some primary feathers so he can fly. I'm just going to basically follow that general shape around. Match it on the other side. And I'm going to do probably about 3 of these cuts. Something like so. We'll do, I'm just gonna go right down that center line. Take that out. Like so. And we're gonna follow those lines with the V tool. Once again, if you want to do this with a knife, have at it. Be mindful of your grain direction here though. If you feel like you're gonna run up against the grain and potentially split that area out, just turn around and attack it from the opposite direction. You'll be fine. And there he is. There's our little blue jay. Thanks for watching this far. Stick around for a little bit longer if you've made it this long. In the last video I did, I promised someone a free Zoom class, and we're about to figure out who that someone is. All right, so in the last video, I mentioned that someone was going to be eligible for a free Zoom lesson. Anybody who commented on that video or anyone who is a paying member of my Patreon. there were 40 of you who entered. So I'm just going into a random number generator here. Minimum of 1, maximum of 40, and we got number 38. So let's see who that person is. 38, my buddy Viking Norm. So bud, I will be in touch with you. We will line something up, and for all of you who entered, I greatly appreciate it. Hey everybody. Thanks once again for tuning in. Thank you all for supporting me for as long as you have. I'll be honest with you, I really suck at this YouTube thing. I'm learning on the fly. I've got a lot more to learn. But I hope you enjoyed the video on carving this little guy today. If you did, be sure and hit that like button. That really helps me in the algorithm, gets me out in front of more people. The more times that thing is hit. Comments are greatly appreciated too. That helps a ton in the algorithm. If you want to support me, there's a link to my Patreon below. That is greatly appreciated. That money helps me to get better lighting, to hopefully upgrade my video equipment here one day. Stuff like that to make this channel better. I'm still limping along with just my phone at this point, but hopefully soon we'll be able to make a jump to actual video equipment. We'll see if we get there. Thank you all for being so supportive for this long, helping me to figure this out. And until next time, bye.